Moving on into round 9, Antonio Gibson, Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, Damian Harris, Tyler Lockett, James Cook, Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary, Matthew Stafford, George Pickens, Derek Carr, and Tyler Boyd. This wasn't a bad round at all. I think there was a lot of good players in here, and you can see in the advance rates that we had a bunch of players who advanced well. Antonio Gibson did well after returning punts all season. Tyler Lockett was the standout of this round. Devin Singletary held on to the job long enough. And in terms of fantasy points over expected, apart from Matthew Stafford, who really stunk it up, there weren't too many bad plays. Like, you could survive those kind of fantasy points over expected per game. One player who was hands down the best player of this round was Tyler Lockett, who's always undervalued. Wide receiver 12 in total points, 9 weeks with over 15 points, and he outperformed DK Metcalf pretty much throughout the season. Do you think there's an argument that those two, their DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, their ADP should be a lot closer together in 2023 best ball than it was this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we love, rightfully so to some degree, to laud DK Metcalf as like the next true breakout receiver. He's been efficient throughout his career. He's shown the ability to earn targets from the day he was drafted. And he's giant. And that's also pretty fun. Like, as a short king myself, seeing DK Metcalf out there, I'm like, I want to draft this guy. I'd like to have that guy on my team because Tyler Lockett, I could kind of see eye to eye with him. He's still a little bit taller than me, but if I saw him just out, I'd be like, that guy's ripped, but I also am nearly as tall as him. And I'd rather have the tall guy on my team. But since they have been on the same team, I even kind of throw out DK Metcalf's rookie season. Like, I don't expect him to earn targets as at the same level Tyler Lockett did that year. But even since then, they have been flip-flopping target share and air yard share every year. Like, one year, DK Metcalf gets a few more deep targets and he ends up having a lead in an air yard share, but Tyler Lockett has more targets. And then the next year, Tyler Lockett ends up being used as more of the deep threat based on the needs of the offense. And in the past 2 seasons before this past year we're coming off of, that had been the case. And there wasn't a strong belief other than like DK Metcalf is younger that would change. This season proved that to be more true than ever, that like just because DK Metcalf is younger and has been good, Tyler Lockett has also been good and showed no signs of slowing. That will probably happen at one point eventually, but don't have any strong reason to believe it'll be in 2023.
Yeah, I think if Gino's back, I'll probably end up with a lot more Tyler Lockett than DK Metcalf, price pending. A player in the mold of kind of DK Metcalf in terms of he's got that dog in him. George Pickens, 4 top 24 finishes, 11 deep receptions, 4.9 targets per game. It seemed to be the tale of with George Pickens that he was making big plays, but he wasn't really putting up big points. And we got him at a good discount compared to Deontay Johnson, who's kind of riding on the back of, high target volume from Ben Roethlisberger. But going forward to 2023, I kind of worry that George Pickens might be overdrafted because there just seems to be a real cult status around George Pickens. And how high would you draft him? Bearing in mind that he was in round 9 this year and probably didn't give you an awful lot of great weeks for that price.
It can't be that much higher. It's like he did kind of what we expected him to do. He came in, made some big plays. The offense was probably worse than we expected.
Yeah,
there's a chance the offense is better next year, but like Kenny Pickett was bad. Kenny Pickett just wasn't very good. They're gonna run it back with Matt Canada, offensive coordinator too. So it's like, what do we really expect to change? And frankly, the fact that they got some games from Mitchell Trubisky was like a good thing for the offense. Mitch was better by like every metric than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett could make the step next year. Like, we see it happen. It could happen again, but he didn't show me anything, other than being inexperienced and now having more experience that would make me believe next year will be the step. Like, I'm sure they'll make some improvements to their offensive line. Maybe Matt Canada will try some different stuff, but like, frankly, he's kind of been the guy we've expected him. Like, he's never really changed. Like, we gave him some sort of slack because, it was really the Ben Roethlisberger offense. Like, there were some differences in the offense this year, but it's hard to even call them better differences. They were just different random stuff that they threw out that didn't really work. So it's round 7 or 8, which probably I'm guessing people go like as high as like 6 for him. And he also kind of ran good to the degree to which Deontay Johnson was atrocious. Like, if Deontay Johnson is better than like 5 yards per target or scores some touchdowns, score one touchdown, That's one touchdown that would have come off the board for George Pickens, but he didn't score a single one. So, like, in a season in which Deontay scores 5, if he could somehow reach such a high margin, that could very well come out of the already thin bottom line of Pickens. I think if you're betting on Pickens, you have to have been and continue to be a Kenny Pickett defender, which is fine. Like, I don't think he was bad coming out of college. I think it was good, but like, he was worse than I expected. He could be better than that. If you think he's better than that, you should be comfortable taking Pickens a little ahead of ADP. I don't have that much faith in him, though, and I would rather bet on Deontay Johnson's ability to just raw earn targets, brute force your way to decent fantasy finishes. Maybe he does better after the catch or at the point where you have to make the catch or getting into the end zone. If any of those things improve, we get a little bit better of a season out of Deontay. The path for Pickens to improve lies so much on his quarterback that I'm a little less excited.
Yeah, I think there has to be some positive touchdown regression for Kenny Pickett. It just like the only way is up, like when you're at the bottom. And in terms of Deontay Johnson, he's somebody, their cost will be very interesting because if they end up very close together, I'd probably feel like taking Deontay Johnson more. Another tandem who are kind of tightly linked, James Cook and Devin Singletary were both in this round. Devin Singletary, he'd never really given us amazing seasons. But this year, he was pretty usable. He had 10.5 points per game compared to James Cook, who had 5.9 points per game. And every time that James Cook seemed to have a good performance, the rug would get pulled and it'd be back to, you'd play him in DFS for next week and then he'd be riding the pine for the whole game. Do you think that the ADP kind of got this one right for the whole? Because obviously anyone drafting James Cook was hoping for that big breakout down the stretch, but do you think it was kind of a fair price to pay for these running backs?
Yeah, I think maybe the most you could argue is they were both a little overpriced because Buffalo has zero desire to run the football. And when they do run the football, sometimes with their quarterback, and when they're in the end zone or near the end zone, they love to run the football with their quarterback. So maybe you could make your argument that like neither of them were great prices. But I do think like we kind of got pretty reasonable outcomes from them. Devin Singletary, not very efficient. They seem to like him. James Cook seemed to be the better running back. They didn't give him the ball much. That's about what we expected. I think if James Cook had gone out, earned a larger role, and been really explosive on that, that also could have been expected. If Devin Singletary had even pushed him for a few more carries, had Devin Singletary really shut him out. Like, these were all like within like less than one standard deviation of what was expected. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Devin Singletary, I believe, is a free agent. I would not be surprised if people just go through the moon to get James Cook and like Zach Moss is brought back or whatever. Like the most heinous thing you can think. Like Duke Johnson from the practice squad. They sign him to reserve future contract. They call him up from the practice squad in week 3, and he's getting 12 touches a game by week 8. Like, I don't know if James Cook profiles as the type of guy I would really love to see him be. And I don't know if we will accept that as a price by his ADP. Like, we really do get enamored with these like low volume, high efficiency backs and just projecting them into 250 touches.
Yeah, and it seems like the Bills aren't even settled on what they've got at running back. We saw them linked with Christian McCaffrey. They seemed enamored with the idea of this elite pass catching running back who they could then not throw the ball to. So they went out and got Nyheim Hines in a trade and then didn't throw the ball to him, didn't even use him. So I wouldn't be surprised if they added somebody else, but I wouldn't be surprised if in early best ball drafts right now, James Cook's probably going in that sort of round 5 area.